The book of Enoch, banned from the Bible, tells the full story of history and humanity and the Nephilim. The angels that came down to earth, the Nephilim, the great flood, and ancient and advanced knowledge are some of the topics discussed in the book of Enoch, an ancient manuscript that comprises various accounts narrated by Enoch, an attested biblical figure and grandfather of Noah, who was in direct contact with God, the divine creator. The book of Enoch is an ancient Hebrew apocalyptic religious text described by tradition to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. Enoch contains unique material on the origins of demons and the Nephilim, and why some angels fell from heaven, an explanation of why the Genesis flood was morally necessary, and a prophetic exposition of the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah. The older sections, mainly in the Book of Watchers of the text, are estimated to date from about 300 to 200 BC, and the latest part, the Book of Parables, probably around 100 BC. Various Aramaic fragments found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, as well as the Guinea Greek, the spoken Greek of that time, and Latin fragments, are proof of the Book of Enoch was known by Jews and early Near Eastern Christians, the first Christian church, that is. This book was also quoted by some 1st and 2nd century authors as in the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs. Authors of the New Testament were also familiar with some content of this story. A short section of 1 Enoch 1:9 is cited in the New Testament Epistle of Jude, Jude 1:14 to 15, and is attributed there to Enoch, the seventh from Adam. Although this section of 1 Enoch is a midrash on Deuteronomy 33:2, several copies of the earlier sections of 1 Enoch were preserved among the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's not part of the biblical canon used by Jews, apart from Beta Israel, the Ethiopian Jews, while the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and Eritrean Orthodox Tewahedo Church consider the Book of Enoch as canonical, so they do have it in their Bibles. Other Christian groups regard it as non-canonical or non-inspired, but may accept it as having some historical or theological interest. It's today wholly extant only in the Ethiopian Ge'ez language, with earlier Aramaic fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls and a few Greek and Latin fragments. And for this and other reasons, the traditional Ethiopian belief is that the original language of the work was Ge'ez, that is Ethiopian, whereas modern scholars argue that it was first written in either Aramaic or Hebrew, the languages first used for Jewish texts. Ephraim Isaac suggests that the Book of Enoch, like the Book of Daniel, was composed partially in Aramaic and partially in Hebrew. No Hebrew version is known to have survived, though, and the book itself asserts that its author was Enoch before the biblical flood. The most complete book of Enoch comes from Ethiopic manuscripts, Ma Shafa Hanek, written in Ge'ez, which were brought to Europe by James Bruce in the 18th century and were later translated to English in the 19th century. The first part of the Book of Enoch describes the fall of the Watchers, the angels who fathered the angel-human hybrids called Nephilim. The remainder of the book describes Enoch's revelations and his visits to heaven in the form of travels, visions, and dreams. In its entirety, the Book of Enoch is made up of 5 books: the Book of Watchers, the fallen angels that is, the Book of Parables, the astronomical book, the dream visions, and the epistles of Enoch, containing some 100 chapters. These chapters tell the story of the 7th patriarch in the book of Genesis, Enoch, the father of Methuselah and grandfather of Noah, the same Noah in the biblical story of Noah's Ark, of course. Yet, this was not the biblical story of Noah's Ark. In fact, the book of Enoch provides an entirely different recounting of the events leading up to the great flood of Noah's time. That is a completely different doctrinal history. It tells the story of the Watchers, explained in biblical terms to be fallen angels, sent to earth to watch over humans at some undefined and ancient point in time. Unfortunately, far from mere watching humans, these watchers became infatuated by human women and in short order began to engage in depraved sexual acts with them. The book of Enoch tells of the children born through this interbreeding between watchers and humans called the Nephilim. And these Nephilim were, as described, giants and savages that endangered and pillaged humanity, or said in other words, supernatural man-eating giants. Angered with what the watchers had done, those described as gods chained them in a subterranean prison deep within the earth, and Enoch became the go-between God and the imprisoned watchers, the fallen Nephilim. And this is on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.